Yeah, we're at the fourth A.
Yeah, we finished it. We had accomplishment.
Okay.
So 3 more A's.
The next day, attachment. Relationships are so critical. They're so nurturing. It really is I think as much as anything, good relationships really are the key to a happy, long life. I'm lucky and I've been married to the same incredible lady, I think, for 56 years now.
Amazing.
And beyond that, with the new technology, it's easy to expand your relationships. I mean, there's affinity groups in virtually every area you can think of. I mean, there's even affinity groups for every sort of illness or medical condition. So it's really easy to communicate with other people. So very important, to maintain a network, your family connections, your connections with good friends. All of this is critically important. I mean, there's nothing more fun and fulfilling than your grandkids, actually. So,
to Larry's
very critical.
To Larry's point, the absence of attachment, which is a higher risk, of course, the older you get, people die.
Right.
But all kinds of research has shown that loneliness and isolation increases stress in a measurable, they've clinically measured it, which in turn, of course, as you know better than I, stress increases inflammation, increases anti-wellness properties, and then it releases all kinds of negative hormonal things if you're under stress. So attachment, we have some resources on the website and in the book that says if your personal network is weakening, we'll just use that word for whatever reason. To Larry's point, there's the internet. There's even been research done among people who have gone on to gaming sites. I don't mean gambling, but gaming sites to play against
Bridge,
other people.
things like that. Yeah.
Chess. And they forming connections.
Yep.
And that's
and
valuable.
It's helping that. That's an attachment.
Yes, it's the Harvard men's study. Right, the connections came out as the number one thing, and we were all following it very closely to say, what's going to happen with this group as they age. And because it's good longitudinal research, they had a lot of funding behind it, that they were able to do some very good research, and that was surprising to most of us. We all kind of thought maybe diet, exercise would come out on top. And it was connections and relationships that came out. I have a patient who's in her 80s who is a widow. And to your point about this online, it's very funny. She can only see me on certain days of the week because not Wednesdays. Wednesdays are very busy because she runs all these online groups, and they're just conversation groups. And believe it or not, one is about American politics. So they get on and it's Republicans and Democrats, and they argue with each other. And certain days she leads and somebody else leads. And it's incredible because she comes in to see me and she's completely fired up about what's happened. And she wants to explain to me and who said this, and they love me and my jokes. Everyone's laughing at my jokes. It's not that hard to do.
We should meet her. I'd love to meet her.
Yeah, she would love to talk to you.
Yeah,
you could be in her group, maybe.
Yeah, she can be on our website.
There you go.
There's another client of ours who is 80, and it was probably 20 years ago. He said, "I just love being with younger people." So whether it's his kids' friends, and he's got a great attitude, very enthusiastic person. And so I think part of superaging, if you can, insert into your network some younger people,
sure.
There's energy with those individuals.
It's the great thing about work. I in the past few years helped a couple of young guys from Poland start a digital insurance agency, and it was fun working with people in their late 30s, their early 40s, and to do their branding and create their launch marketing. And you have to connect with people who are doing things, who have an active life, and generally that's younger people. So
Yes.
you're quite right.
There was also some research in the book that is interested maybe in your area because it relates to fitness and sports, and that they did some research, I forget, it's in the book, but that participation in team sports was considered very, very beneficial. They weren't forcing you onto a team if you couldn't bear it was inconvenient. But they did a study of people in their 70s and 80s who were still playing in team leagues and team
Right.
sports. So you got the attachment and the fitness all rolled into one.
Right, the
and
social.
and the accomplishment in the sense of we won the game, we lost, or I improved my score, or I
Right.
did whatever.
Yeah.
But team sports, you know that there's over 60,000 people in Canada over the age of 70 who still play ice hockey.
Fantastic.
Leagues.
Beers in the
And
dressing
a
room.
hockey league.
How cool is that? I think too, you see that obviously with golf,
Yes,
and
yeah.
I'm from Saskatchewan, so curling.
Curling, bowling.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily about the game, I don't think. It's because there's a club, and then
Exactly,
the club
exactly.
has dinners and tournaments.
Connections.
And
Right.
so they come and they have a party and they give
Yep.
each other awards and they dress up in costumes. And I'm
All
sure
good.
for Superaging, that whole, looking forward to something and looking
Oh,
forward
yes.
to seeing your friends. Pickleball, have you guys tried that yet?
I've
No,
seen it.
my wife's a pickleball player, actually.
It's exactly
Yeah.
that, because everyone can play.
Right.
We've started playing and we just love it because you can have a conversation while you're playing it with your friends.
Oh, yes.
And it's very social, so you're getting both things at
Yeah,
once,
exactly.
which
Right.
is the key.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
attachment, and what's after
Oh,
attachment?
and after attachment comes autonomy. Being in control of your own life is very, very important. And there's two aspects to autonomy, the physical and the financial. So much is happening with AI and, excuse me, with AI and with robotics, really to facilitate people living at home, maintaining their house, not having to move into a retirement community. There's just so much that can be done with the home to make it really very user-friendly. David did this marvelous piece about the home being the hospital of the future. And in addition to the physical autonomy, financial autonomy is very critical. If you're going to live to 100 as opposed to living to 65 or 70, your financial planning takes on a whole new aspect. You've got to plan for your later years. Just the simple perspective of you've got to do more than simply maintain capital. You need to grow capital so it keeps on working for you as you age. So
It's a-
financial and physical autonomy.
We've never heard anybody in the past worry about outliving their money.
Right.
And today that's a common phrase.
Absolutely.
Just back to the home angle for a minute. This shows you again how the pieces fit together because awareness comes back in this sense. The pace of technological change around the home is staggering.
Yeah.
Okay, we're moving toward. We already have smart floors. We already have smart mattresses. We're moving around passive sensors. You don't even need to wear the thing anymore. It'll be all around you with your consent. That will be auditing your condition and messaging your healthcare provider in real time about how you're
Fantastic.
doing. They're now starting to weave in AI for anticipatory. We think Mrs. Jones is at a risk for a fall because of the way she walked across the kitchen this morning compared to yesterday.
Incredible.
And these systems are already being done.
It's incredible.
Which means, though, that as a consumer, you need to know about this stuff. You need to know how much it's going to cost.
Right.
And we're beginning to see embryonically such things as people calling in an occupational therapist for an aging in place audit of their home. then building that into their financial plan. Nobody ever thought about that
Smart.
before. You thought about renovating your home. What did that mean? Well, we're going to knock out the back and put on a sunroom, or that was it. Guy's going to come in, he's going to knock out the thing. Oh, make it age-friendly. Okay, I'll walk in, shower, I'll hire a toilet seat, but fine. But that's just the dark ages compared to what's coming. The point is, though, do you know about all this stuff? And if you don't, how do you find out? And once you find out, how do you plan for it? How do you fund it? So is it a reasonable part of your financial plan? I'm going to need the robots 10 years from now, and this is what it's going to cost. And by the way, the hospital of the future is the home, is a phrase that's being used inside the healthcare industry, because they're saying that we're all 90% of post-operative stays in the hospital can take place at home.
Absolutely.
We can send you home,
Yeah.
because with all the sensors and all
We
the
agree.
monitors, so the
Could be
point
there.
is, our health system doesn't seem to be aware of that yet. The consumer doesn't seem to be aware of that yet. So these are some of the early signs we're identifying in the book that says this is what's coming. You got to actually know about this, and you better have a plan for getting that knowledge, because it can enhance your autonomy and your independence.
We also need to send this podcast to the financial planners and the life insurance
Oh, yes.
salespeople.
Oh, yes, yes.
Because there are no group of people that Tim has been in these meetings with me because we are aggravated. I've been in them with the life insurance people where I want to jump across and like strangle them because they encourage you to retire. They encourage you to say, you're not going to be doing anything. And do you remember the arguments that I would have with them? And I'd say no. And then they'd want me to insure my hands because I use them for practice. I said, no, I don't need to do that. I also have a brain. And I can, if something happens to my hand, you better believe I'm keeping working, doing something else. And they'll say, no, you might not want to do that. So I think that whole system needs a revamp as well, where they're not encouraging people to say, you know what, shut it down at 65, and why would you want to continue doing things? You're going to be tired. They do use that type of a language.
And they do. And the financial planners are kind of getting there a little bit more slowly.
Yes.
J.P. Morgan, Asset Management in the United States, told its advisors, and we have this in the book, to assume, just for planning purposes, that all of their clients who are 65 are going to live to 100.
Amazing.
Just build that into
Build
your
it in.
plan.
And Fidelity had you give
And I gave a
presentation
speech
to
to
their
talk to
advisors.
some advisors from Fidelity, independent advisors, in a webcast organized by Fidelity, talking about how their practice, the whole nature of what is a financial planner is changing, because instead of saying, I can put you into these investments at a 6% return, it'll give you, it's, wait a minute, maybe there's no investment that can give you enough. Maybe you got to keep working, and I'm also have an employment consultant as part of my practice.
Agreed.
I need to
think
know
that's
about how
fantastic.
you're going to earn money.
100%.
And I'm still going to put you into investments, but wait a minute, the investments now, it used to be under the old model, you cannot take any loss at all at 65 because you haven't got enough time to recoup.
Yes.
But what if you kind of do have enough time? Now, that doesn't mean let's put it all in penny stocks,
Right.
but we might move the risk acceptability just up one setting,
Yes.
let's say.
Yes.
And then we're going to factor in income and earning. And then, by the way, I've got a senior real estate consultant, and that's starting to be certified in the real estate industry now, senior specialist. So when you sell your house, that's a whole complicated thing. Where do you move to? Do you stay there? Do you renovate? Do you move? And if you move, we need to audit the medical facilities in the town you're moving to.
Right.
So the whole thing becomes just this matrix of services. And maybe the financial planner is the guy or lady who's the quarterback.
Exactly.
And their eyes lit up. Hey, this is a whole new business, a whole
It's
new way of
fantastic.
rethinking
Love
my
it.
business.
You need to do that.
It's coming. It's
Okay.
coming.
We need to do
Slowly,
that.
but it's coming.
Okay, so we are at number 6 now, and so
Autonomy.
it's
And
number
the
7.
last day
The
is
conclusion.
avoidance. First, ageism. Having turned 80, ageism drives me crazy. There's ageism everywhere as you look. There's ageism in medicine. There's the doctor that says, well, this guy's 80 or 81, he's only got a few more years. Why should I worry about any of these advanced treatments? A lot of ageism in medicine. I think more so in the UK and Canada perhaps than in the States, but all over, a lot of ageism. A lot of ageism in politics. Although, again, in the States, it's amazing the amount of senators, congressmen over 80. Biden, if he's reelected, which I believe is likely, I think will be 82 when he starts his second term, and I think 86 when his term is over. Grassley, who was just reelected, I think at 88, I think will be 94 when his term is over.
Fantastic.
So that's that's good, even though I don't like his politics. But you look at business. I mean the terrific example, Stacey, you gave of life insurance. I mean, there's this terrible ageism in a lot of areas. And in addition to ageism, there's a lot of scams, a lot of things that need avoiding. Somehow, a lot of con men, a lot of scammers think that old people are particularly vulnerable. So there's a lot of just very bad things focused on older people. So again, avoidance, the scams and the ageism, but I'd rather focus on the other six positives.
But the good news is on the avoidance that the superagers themselves are increasingly militant and aware of this. So in the area of the workplace, for example, and in the area of the marketplace, we're starting to see some pushback on misrepresentation of old, elderly, helpless in media, in advertising, let's say. A good example is still, they haven't fixed it yet, mind you, but I talk to a lot of people who are angry about this. The vast majority, or no, not maybe vast, but more than half of all cars are purchased by people over the age of 55.
Wow.
How many of them do you see in a car commercial? You ever see any middle-aged person, never mind old person, driving a car? Never.
Never.
Ever.
Young people and then families.
And they don't account for the majority.
And the guys in the trucks, the big guys.
Yeah. So that's one thing. So there's a lot of pushback against this. On the frauds and scams front, I think Larry's right. There's a perception that they're very vulnerable. So they are attacked, we are attacked and targeted. But there is some evidence that we're very, very aware of this. I had a fascinating Zoom call focus group that I ran on online shopping with people all over the age of 70. By the way, they're all logging onto Zoom calls and taking part in webinars and focus groups. It's the easiest thing. And we were talking about shopping.
Right.
Where do you go? And 3 women, each of them over the age of 75. One I think was one was maybe in Saskatoon or Regina.
Yeah.
One was in Vancouver, one was in Toronto. Got into a debate about what was the best anti-malware software to use on their computer.
Fabulous.
And she says, no, you got to use malware bytes. Oh, you pay for that? I just use Microsoft. No, that Norton's way better. And they started arguing with each other about anti-virus software.
Yeah.
So it turns out that they're quite capable.
Right.
Now, it's an annoyance. I mean, Larry's right completely. It's a big problem.
Yes.
We
know. We've dealt with it with our families.
Hacked,
yes.
So I'm not poo-pooing it, but fortunately, I think the superager as a group are better equipped to deal with it than people of that same age would have been maybe 15 or 20 years ago. They're very comfortable being online.
Right.
And
Thank
they're
goodness.
They're or let's say more comfortable
Sure.
than they were in the
Right. Well,
past.
and it's one of your A's, which
Yeah.
is awareness.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yes.
once it happens, what's happening that we hear about, because our parents are in Saskatchewan.
Right.
Saskatchewan is heavily targeted. It's an older population,
Yes, it is.
and it's lots of farmers and people who are designed to help each other.
Right.
So when they get the phone call that says, you know, this is your grandson needs help, needs money,
Yes.
they tend to right away be, of course, and how do I get the money to that person? So we have many friends and family members that have dealt with it. However, there's a great source of community, and to your point about the awareness, once they hear about it, that news travels very quickly because it's a story and it's an incredible story usually. And so then they get all their friends.
I mean, you'll get a kick out of this. You can cut this part out, but I think you'll appreciate the story. One of the women in the call said, or two women, they are very worried about having their credit card information compromised. So one woman, she says, I buy 10 items a week, one way or the other, every week from Amazon. Something is being delivered all the time. She says, and I always put it on my debit card, and I make sure that I don't have 1 penny left over. So I always zero out my debit
She
card.
just transfers it.
I zero out my debit card on that purchase, and then I deposit money onto my debit card for the next.
That's great.
Yeah.
She wouldn't ever put her credit card
She's
onto
savvy.
the
It's like the old cash system.
She was her own
She's-
Cash only.
and she was like 75 years old or
Perfect.
80 years old.
She knew how to do all the transfers.
She also sent me a very funny picture afterwards. She enjoyed the online session, so she sent me. It was a meme. It was like a Instagram picture, and it's on your classic little old lady, you know, at the wheel of a car, smiling at the camera, and you see the white hair, and she says, my eyes are too weak for online shopping now, so I better drive to the store.
That's great. It is great. You got to keep your sense of humor,
You do.
with all of this.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the final thing we were going to talk to you about, which is you too might find this interesting, is there's a new club in the city, and it's a club of people with access and means, and they are setting this goal of reaching 120 years old. And I do a lot of the assessments at Totum, so I see the people right when they come in, and I can tell you that there's a few people who have been saying to me, I want to live to 120. What does that make you think about?
Well, it's possible. We have an article in our website. The first person to live to 150 is alive today. I mean living to 120 is not a high probability, but it's getting to be a higher probability. The fastest growing age category in North America is centenarians, people over 100.
Wow.
So
In percentage
it's
terms,
getting more and more
Amazing.
possible, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
More power to them.
Yeah.
Very feasible.
So I think that this book that you've written is fantastic.
Thank you.
And we will post information to your website and where to get the book. And I think that the two of you are actually, we could refer to you as disruptors.
We hope so.
We are.
Yeah,
We hope
absolutely.
we are. Yes.
Which is a very cool label, right? And
is.
I think you're making us think about this most important thing in a different and exciting way.
Well,
It's
thank you.
positive.
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming and talking to us. It's amazing information, and like they said, we'll be spreading it around.
Well, we
Well,
appreciate
thank
it.
you for inviting
Thanks
us.
for inviting us.
Take care.